What's going on, Facebook? This is George. Today is Friday. It's 3 p.m. and here is another live video at George's Space Chat. I hope you're all doing well. Um, let's see if anybody cares to join me today. Uh, it's been a couple weeks since I've been on this. Um, and as I said at the beginning of the month of September, I was not able to do any more live videos because I had some other work to do. It's as simple as that. Hey, what's going on, Sadi? Good to see you. Um, so, whoops, there goes my alarm. Set myself an alarm and there it goes. All right. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're doing everything to stay sane and safe out there. Um, we all know that that's not the most the easiest thing to do, and you have to forgive me today because I am totally exhausted. I have just done some intense physical labor for the last 2.5 weeks, and yeah, I am totally exhausted. So bear with me. Today's video might not be super long, and I might ramble on at times more than usually. But my brain just is fried. Hey, wie geht's dir, Claudia? My cousin from Vienna is joining in. Ja, liebe Grüße an alle. Um, uh, yeah, I'm very happy that you guys are back at the concert. It's been a minute. Anyway, Sadi, I did not see. Oh yeah, I did. I mean, I saw the topic for the Berkeley base webinar, but I didn't see it. I was totally busy over the last 2.5 weeks. Uh, I wasn't around. So anyway, whoever is on this, please say hello in the chat. It seems that I am able to get all the comments. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but today it seems to work. Um, and yeah, just I mean, I said that I wasn't going to comment on the current you know situation, current political situation all the time, but it seems almost impossible not to comment on this because this this indictment in the Breonna Taylor case is a slap in the face of Black America and especially Black American women. Um, and it would seem frivolous to me to just go on with the topic of this week's live video without acknowledging that this is this is outrageous and of course this has been going on for a very long time and it will continue to go on if we don't do anything about it. So vote blue come November. Vote these motherfuckers out of power because that's at least one chance we have to get rid of them. And let's not make the same, or hell, I voted for Hillary. So let's not fool ourselves that we have the luxury of not voting or of sitting this one out. You cannot sit this one out. You cannot sit this presidential election out. There's just no, don't don't even think about it. And don't think for a second that your institutions will save you, because that is clearly not happening. That's all I gotta say to that. It's pitiful. It is outrageous. It is infuriating. What happened in Kentucky and what continues to happen every day in the U.S. It is it breaks my heart. It enrages me to no end. And at the same time, also let me say this and be very clear about this, because a couple weeks ago I was on a chat of my good friends, a chat. I was commenting on a post by my good friend Tomo Akaboshi. I probably mispronounced her name. And some asshole violin player from New Jersey who I don't know, whose name I don't remember, um, you know, got on the same topic and commented about the topic was about what can we do to ensure that once the pandemic is over, there is equal opportunity, equal employment opportunities for black musicians. So this asshole gets on it and starts up with for speaking up against equal opportunities, speaks against um, hiring black musicians, accuses people who speak up in favor of hiring black musicians of reverse racism. Pooh. And I had to leave the conversation. There's no point in discussing anything with someone who clearly lives in the 50s, or at least wants to live in the 50s, where whites only was the law. And yeah, so this piece of shit violin player came on and started talking about reverse racism. And for anybody who listens to this, who watches this, you know, I cannot, my voice is trembling. I am trembling as I am thinking about this. It is, it is, it is the height of entitlement to, um, to even bring up a non-existent argument, right? Like reverse racism. That shit does not exist. Dumb fuck. Okay? It doesn't exist. It never has existed. So if you're thinking about that kind of argument, I would strongly urge you to rethink your positions, rethink think about your state of mind, think about where you're coming from with that kind of talk. That was by far not the only thing that he spewed out. I mean, it was like a plethora of there just aren't enough black musicians and they're not good enough, and all of the usual racist bullshit that you hear, which was really heartbreaking to to witness. Let's put it this way. So, if you're coming from that point of view, if those thoughts are thoughts that are, sometimes swirling around in your mind, I highly urge you to rethink your position. Because we are living in the US of 2020 where an unarmed, innocent black woman can be gunned down by the police in her own home while asleep and left lying there to bleed out. And the only thing that one of the three cops gets indicted on is hitting the sheetrock in the apartment next door. That is where we are. You wanna come at me with reverse racism? Think again, motherfucker. What a piece of shit. Unbelievable. So, that's gonna be my rant. As I said, I am exhausted, I am tired, I'm physically exhausted, I'm mentally exhausted, and my heart is broken because of this shit. But here we are. We all gotta go on, we all gotta keep on keeping on and call out bullshit behavior, bullshit arguments when you hear them. I saw this and I'm as maybe some of you have followed, I always wear these t-shirts with some sort of message on them. And I try to be, I try to make somewhat of a contribution this way, because I do believe that a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. Nevertheless, call out this bullshit behavior wherever you hear it, wherever you see it. I don't give a fuck whether it's your relatives, whether it's your loved ones. I don't care. That shit is there is no room for this in this universe, and don't believe that it's all benign. Don't believe that it's all innocent, or that we have to honor both sides of the argument. One side is equality, and the other side is not equality. This is probably not good English, but I hope you all get my point. This is it is ultimately heartbreaking to me to see colleagues, to hear colleagues spew that kind of bullshit. And I'm talking about people in the music field, in American musicians and European, um, who are trying to appease, I don't know who, maybe some audience members, some conservatives, some right-wing audience members, some conservative audience members, uh, record label heads, companies that are endorsing them, whoever the fuck. I mean, it is. I've had this long conversation, I've had an exchange with Hadrian Farrow, the bass player, on Instagram, because he posted some shit that, was really just, he said something about he's trying not to be political in a clearly political post. And I was like, why not be political? Well, because my music is not political. You're lying. Your music is political. The minute you play jazz, you're making a political statement. The minute you play anything that comes out of the black experience, the black American experience, and the black African experience in general, it is political. Okay, um, so do not. We're getting down to the wire now until November. And do not let people get away with that kind of bullshit. That's all I have to say to that. Vote, contribute to your Democratic candidates, do whatever you can, because this shit, if the right, if the Republicans, if Trump wins, there is no saving us. Understand this. There is no saving us. This is not going to get better. This is not something that can just be looked over, brushed over, and business as usual. It's There is no saving us, but we can still vote, and that is something that we have to do. And people have fought and died for our rights to vote, for our right to vote. So by all means, I urge you, vote blue. Do not throw this away. Do not take this lightly, and do what you can. I am sweating and I'm getting all emotional while talking about this, but this is worth it. Having said that, let me continue on shouting out a bunch of people who are here. Saudi is here. Hashim, what's going on? Archibaldo, what's going on, my friend? Um, Roger Maltby, good to see you, man. And let's get into the topic of today's video, which of course ties in to the racial climate and imbalance of the US of today and of the last 400 years. Hello. All right. And I thought that today I would talk about a movie and an album that influenced me a lot as a teenager. And that was the movie Bring on the Night, featuring Sting and his band at the time. Bring on the Night was a pivotal point, perhaps for me, definitely for me, perhaps for more people than we give it credit for. I believe that up until that point, Sting had been solely working or producing, putting out music with his band, The Police. And needless to say, he was a huge star. The Police was a huge band. I believe that they broke the attendance record of Shea Stadium that was set by the Beatles in the 60s. So here come the Police, and I believe that was in the 80s, and they break the previous record that the Beatles set. So just to give you an idea of how big and how famous he really was. Um, so the police disbanded, and I have to admit that at the time I was still living in Vienna, Austria. Um, I was not the biggest Police fan. They were not necessarily on my radar. I knew them from Every Breath You Take, and that was pretty much the only song that I knew of them. But also, this had perhaps more to do with my personal situation, growing up with my family and the surrounding chaos and calamities that came from that. Um, Nevertheless, Every Breath You Take was a huge hit, even in Vienna. And that's all I really knew. I knew that he had acted in the movie Dune, which I had never seen. Um, but that was pretty much it. And then this movie came out, and it's it was right around the time um, where I went to see my first concert, which I had previously talked about in live videos, which was a double bill of Al Jarreau and Dave Sanborn. So I believe that Bring On the Night came out 1 or 2 years after I saw that concert. Uh, and that definitely spurred and the idea of being a sideman, being a side musician in me. That definitely the concert inspired me to reach for that. And then this movie came out. And even though I did not see it in the theaters at the time, hey, what's going on, Carl Latham? Good to see you, man. Even though I didn't see it at the time, it was a continuation of the idea of being a side musician, and that is something that I can make my life's goal basically. Um, I remember very clearly I had to take the streetcar from where I was living in the 18th district to my high school, which was in the first district of Vienna, and the streetcar would pass a cinema called Votiv Kino in the ninth district of Vienna. For those who are interested in these details, um, but that movie played played that movie theater played the movie, and it was a beautiful old 50s theater that specializes in independent movies, stuff that was not the big blockbusters. Believe it had 2 or 3 screens. The interior was all straight from the 50s, so it was a real experience going to the theater. Again, I did not see the movie there, but they put the posters up on the outside on the billboard of the theater. So there were those big posters, Bring On the Night, and screenshots from the movie. And I do remember seeing these screenshots and seeing Sting, this pop star, rock star, in conversation with these black musicians: Daryl Jones, Omar Hakim, Branford Marsalis, Kenny Kirkland, Janice Pendarvis, Dolette McDonald. If I'm mispronouncing their names, please bear with me. I'm tired. And those images stayed with me, and they are still, like, I see them in my mind's eye to this day. Some 30 years, 30 odd years later. Uh, so once I had a chance to see the movie, which was, I believe that my first time seeing it um, was probably when I studied at Berkeley College. Berkeley College at the time had a fantastic library, and I believe they still do. And the library not only had a number of vinyl records and cassette tapes, but also VHS videotapes. And sure enough, you could borrow Bring On the Night. So I started seeing it, and I believe my friend Andrew Whalen, who was studying with me at the time, he made a point of seeing the movie like once a week as well. I was in the same boat. From the first time I saw it, I could not get enough of it. The everything about it was an affirmation to me. Everything about it was a musical enlightenment to me. And to this day, I just I only listened to the live album, to Bring on the Night, the live album, to this day. And researching today's video, I actually for the first time listened to the studio album, The Dream of Blue Turtles or whatever it was called. Let's see if I can bring up the title. View album. Let's see, what does it say? Yeah, The Dream of the Blue Turtles. I had not listened to the studio album ever. I listened to it for the first time maybe a month ago. So yeah, the live album was everything. It was at the time, of course, there was no. I was not in a position to analyze it, to transcribe it, or anything like that. I was not, uh, and it's not that I was not allowed to do it or anything like that. But in a way, I wasn't allowed to listen to that type of music. Um, it just never even occurred to me to really dig deeper into it. I just knew that I wanted to be there. I wanted to be that person, and that meant for me to start learning jazz, basically from the ground up. And you could one could argue that that may or may not have been the best decision. Nevertheless, I am listening to it now and I'm transcribing that shit now, and you better believe it that it's changing my musical output in by leaps and bounds. Okay, so I highly recommend, if there is something that grabs you, start going into it right away. Don't delay. Don't do what I did, which was wait, a solid 20 years before going into it. Um, if there's something that grabs you, and that's perhaps my biggest takeaway from this movie, by all means, go into it. Go right into it. Don't delay. It's not worth it. And it comes back to what I understand now, that you need to have an emotional connection to the music you learn, and the music you play. And if that emotional connection, if you are in tune with your being, with your taste, with your aesthetic, if something like that reveals itself to you, it would behoove you to act on it right away. That was a big takeaway for me, and I believe that all these musicians that are in the movie, Omar Hakim, Daryl Jones, Kenny Kirkett, Branford Marsalis, Dolette McDonald, Janice Pendarvis, I believe that the one, perhaps the one of the reasons why their output is so transparent and speaks to so many people is because they figured that out. They figured out that the minute something is of interest to them, they go into it. They go in deep, and perhaps that is a sign of a great musician. Perhaps that really makes it. I don't want to say it makes it easier, but it makes it. It definitely makes it possible to express yourself, um, to to find immediacy in your expression. So that was a big takeaway. Nevertheless, let's get back to the movie. So, aside from, I did write out a couple notes, so just bear with me as I bring them up. As I said at the beginning, my brain is fried, and I, I try to do these videos without looking at my notes, but it's not always, not always, I'm not always able to do that. So here we are. Um, One thing that kind of that struck me as as important with the movie, with the album, with the entire uh, endeavor. Uh, and this has been documented well and plenty in the movie as well, is that you have this white British rock star who has a band of black American musicians. What's going on, Ruben Rodriguez? Hope you're doing well. Mark Peterson, good to see you. Uh, and, for me, as a black man or a black teenager living in Vienna, um, that was definitely something that I could hook into, even though I didn't exactly at the time. Nevertheless, I made a note of it, and that's why I started seeing it later on at Berkeley. Uh, Kent, what's going on? Yeah, find immediacy in your expression. Thank you. I try to get my words just right. I'm glad you like that. That is awesome. So you had this band consisting of this white rock star, and then you had these black musicians playing with him and playing his music, and perhaps contributing. In the description of the video, which I urge everybody to read, I kind of wrote. I tried to put myself into the mind that I had at the time, and it was that that phrase of "Did he really just say that?" That happened to me, and that still happens to me every time I watch the movie. And it could be used for what Omar Hakim says, what Dolette McDonald says, what Janice Pendarvis says. Really, what all of these musicians are talking about. What Sting says, but let's not forget about that. So there were many moments that, in my opinion, just were sort of guiding lights of how you could approach being a side musician, of what your thought can be. I don't necessarily want to go into the various scenes of the movie because I think that's everybody can watch the movie by themselves and kind of figure out what the various scenes, what the various interviews are about. Nevertheless, I thought that the clarity with which these musicians presented themselves, with which they presented their points of view, or how they talked about their craft, how serious they took it, and still do. Let's not forget that. All of that made a huge impact on me. And as I already said, and I'm going to continue saying that, a lot of other people as well. So here you had the inner workings of um, a rock band, of a pop project, and people who were thinking about this. And that kind of brings me to the next point, which was sort of, at least which I believe is an underlying theme to the movie, and that is the strange balance of, you have these supposedly very serious jazz musicians now playing something that's regarded as not serious, which is pop music and almost frivolous, right? Um, I spoke with uh, I spoke with someone who saw that band at the time, the Blue Turtles band, let's call it that, and who was a big Sting fan, who was a big Police fan, who grew up with that music. And I asked, was there any kind of thought while seeing the concert? Did you think about that these were also serious jazz musicians now playing something that's not so serious? And sure enough, the answer was no. It didn't really care whether it was the serious jazz musicians playing something, playing music that's considered not serious. That was the first thing. Apparently, that was the furthest thing on their mind. The thing that really hooked them in was the music, and seeing, hearing the music, seeing these musicians up on stage, and just doing it. Um, so I found that to be a very interesting point, because up until now and up until that conversation, I always thought that was kind of the biggest. I don't want to say takeaway, but that was a big part of the mystery of the movie and the album. Um, Having had that conversation, having had taking having taken a look at the bigger picture, I believe that there is a lot to that, though. There's a lot of truth in these words. And think about it, the Police were a huge hit. Again, they broke the attendance record at Shea Stadium, which hosts I don't know how many thousand people. Um, so whoever went to the concert probably couldn't care less that there were now all of a sudden jazz musicians playing pop music. So perhaps that was a little bit of a spin that was put on this movie. That was very uh, deliberately put on the movie, and added to the movies and the music's mystique, and that was put there on purpose to add to the movie and the music's mystique. Um, I find that fascinating. That is definitely something to keep in mind, especially when we are still facing thoughts of serious music, or differentiations of different genres of music, meaning jazz is considered so highbrow and pop is considered so lowbrow. Is that really the case, or did jazz become highbrow once white educational um, entities, colleges, etc., started teaching jazz? That is something that we might want to ask ourselves if we want to sound authentic, and if we want to play this music with any kind of, to use this word, immediacy. So that's something to keep in mind, in my opinion. The output of Bring On the Night was that all of a sudden you had music that was played, and here's another word that keeps coming up in these live videos, with unquestionable quality. All right, there's no debate whether the sounds produced on that stage, be it in or on the album, on the studio album, um, that that is quality, and that stays being quality. That's as nebulous as the term quality is. All of a sudden, there you have uh, an example of it, and that I find fascinating. So that's something that was another takeaway for me. Um, let's see. Talked about this. Oh yeah, uh, the the fact that Sting was hiring these black musicians to play his music, also shone a light on and here we go. Here it kind of ties into what I said at the beginning of the video, with hiring practices, and with the fact that perhaps um, these racial stereotypes of who plays what music definitely uh, played into the foreign character of this music, and the new perceived new character of the, I should say, the foreign character of the movie, and the perceived new character of the music. Uh, Nevertheless, let's not forget that Sting was not the first um, white artist who hired black musicians. Uh, Another British artist, David Bowie, Young Americans. That came out before Bring On the Night. And that was recorded in Philadelphia, I believe, at either Sigma Sound or Philadelphia International Records. And that was an all black endeavor. Um, so was that really the groundbreaking event that it was made out to be? Hard to tell, but it definitely contributed to it. Um, and the other thing is also that at the time, and we're talking, this is not long ago, because this Bring On the Night came out towards the end of the 80s. The segregation in the musical racial segregation in the musical airwaves was still very, very much happening, and as it is today as well. Nevertheless, you did have artists like a Michael Jackson, who was the king of pop. You had artists like Prince, who seemingly moved from R&B to pop, without any boundaries, without any, perhaps with a lot of pushback as well. But these artists were definitely active at the time as well. So it is, you do have to ask yourself, okay, was it really that groundbreaking of an event, or was Sting someone who kind of saw the signs of time and moved with them? And either way, I give him credit for doing the endeavor. I think the product speaks for itself. And the depiction of the musicians in the movie speaks for itself. And that is something that cannot be taken away. Let me see what Archibaldo says. Um, knows but a fraction of what he does not know. Yes, so, the wise man realizes that he doesn't know anything, or that he only knows very little. I totally agree. So, uh, what else can I say? Oh yeah, another thing that I found fascinating about this movie was that it, to a certain degree, exposed the inner workings of the music business. And I kind of talked about this in the Erica Badu video already, where with Carl Tyrone, she talks about how the song was written. Um, there is this scene in the movie where Aaron Copland is being interviewed, and Aaron Copland was, and perhaps still is, I don't know, Sting's manager, and he kind of shed a light on the wage negotiations with the musicians. And that certainly all of a sudden is, or was, uh, a depiction of a part of the business that otherwise you don't get to see. And I thought that that was incredibly courageous, uh, enlightening, all of these things. So that was, I think, that made that scene alone added gravitas to the movie. It added a sense of urgency, a sense I'm trying not to say immediacy, but a sense of realness. Okay, that otherwise, the usual the general consumer of music does not see, and that for us musicians is perhaps normal to, it's debatable what is normal, but for us, wage negotiations are a thing that you just have to do, especially since we are all freelancers, whether we like to admit to it or not. But yeah, I think that the general audience, non-musicians, the general music consumers, fans, aficionados, don't necessarily see that side of the business. And I thought that that was really interesting that they just shone a light on that they made that an emphasis. I thought that was brilliant. Now, getting to the musical output, and I think this is kind of where it gets really deep, because you have these musicians who I believe at the time were all in their 30s, perhaps. I don't know how old they were, and honestly, I don't really care. Um, their output was flawless, and their output still is flawless. Let's not forget that. Just as an example, Daryl Jones went on to play with the Rolling Stones and has been playing with them now for well over 10 years, if not 20 years, something like that. And you don't do that if you're anything less than exceptional. I'm not a big Stones fan, but I have to acknowledge that they've been around forever. And they've been around longer than I've been alive. So, I mean, who am I to say that, oh, they suck? I can't, the thought is laughable. So, Dale Jones went on to play with the Rolling Stones. There's a reason why he got picked. There's a reason, and it's not because it's not only because he knows his manners and all of that. No, his musical output is of such quality that he gets picked for projects like that, for situations like that. I did make another playlist, and I urge everybody to check out this playlist, because what I did put in there, and I'm gonna read from it real quick. Of course, I put in The Dream of the Blue Turtles. I put in Bring On the Night, the album, the live album. But I also tried to curate it in a way where I would show what these musicians were working on before and after. Within, I believe I gave myself like a 2, maybe 3 years before, 3 years after time period. And all of a sudden you realize how prolific these musicians were and still are. There is, of course, Branford Marsalis with his own projects. Then he is playing with Wynton Marsalis, with his brother. There is, let me see if I can bring up the titles of the albums, because I think this is important. All right, there is Omar Hakim, who recorded Tonight, which is a David Bowie album in '84, and then moved on to, which I did not know, Brothers in Arms, Dire Straits, '85. That's Omar Hakim on drums. And perhaps he met Sting during the recording session for Brothers in Arms. I don't know that. I'm totally assuming this right now. Nevertheless, that is part of his output going into this project, okay? You have Daryl Jones, who recorded with Miles Davis before, meaning, I believe The Man with the Horn. Let me see if I can, no, that was the wrong button. If I can bring this up. Okay, Decoy, and let's see, where is the album name here? You Are Under Arrest, which I believe are not the only ones. Okay, well, so Daryl Jones was with Miles Davis doing that type of work, doing that kind of immediacy and intensity, dealing with that type of intensity, okay? You have Branford and Kenny Kirkland recording with Wynton Marsalis. The albums are Hot House Flowers and I believe Coats from the Black Underground. Black Coats from the Underground, something like that. Yeah, Black Coats from the Underground. And then let's not forget, you have Dolette McDonald and Janis Pendarvis, who move on to record with the Rolling Stones the album Dirty Work, okay, which came out in also which either came out or was recorded also in '86. Uh, and then you have Janis Pendarvis recording an album just also to show the breadth of their output, the width, I should say, of their output. What did I just do? Here we go. View album. She recorded Glass, Songs from Liquid Days, an album by Philip Glass, who is, I guess, can be called a modern classical composer. So there, all of this is happening right around Bring On the Night, and all of these endeavors, all of these, and of course, let's not forget that Branford Marsalis, Kenny Kirkland, like had played, um, with came out of the Messengers, Jazz Messengers school, Art Blakey school. So all of these influences, all of these outputs were right around the same time. These musicians were incredibly prolific, and of course, having a high-profile gig such as Sting's did not hurt them getting other calls. Nevertheless, they were, and the point that I'm trying to make is that they were already prolific before they were in Sting's band. And that is something that I believe is important to keep in mind. Very often musicians kind of um, are looking for the ticket, the one gig that's going to catapult them into fame, fortune, money, other creative endeavors, not realizing that there are a lot of gigs that happen before that one gig, or before that supposedly one gig happens. Who is to say that there is that one gig? Who is to say that it's not a progression of jobs that you're doing, and you just happen to bring all of your creativity, your seriousness, your professionalism to all of them, and one project takes off more than another, or who's to say that it's not a progression of gigs rather than just this one gig that has to happen now, and then everything will be just roses. It doesn't, if this little bit of research that I've done um, has shown me anything, is that these people were working all the time, and for them this was a continuation of what their quote unquote normal situation was. And that was a powerful, at least for me, that was a powerful takeaway. Um, Not that I didn't know this, but it's always important to get these reminders. And perhaps the reason why people are looking at these videos or checking them out week after week is that these might be reminders of thoughts and ideas that you all have. Um, it helps hearing them expressed from somebody else as well. Um, so Archibaldo says Richard Boner, yes, yeah, great player, no doubt. Um, Perhaps you keep you mean that Richard Boner is being called the Black Sting, but he himself says, like, why don't they call Sting the White Richard Boner? I mean, he's got a point. He's got a point. Of course, Sting has been around a lot longer and has sold a lot more albums. Nevertheless, it is fair to ask that question, in my opinion. I totally get that. So I do want to urge everyone to check out this playlist. I thought that this was very interesting, and as I said with previous videos, these playlists also change. I keep adding songs to them, and I try to make videos of playing these lines, and some of them I transcribe, and I will publish these I will post these transcriptions. Um, so I highly recommend checking this out. And when you find a project like this, or when you find an album like this that all of a sudden sparks something in you, go deep and find out uh, what the what the surrounding circumstances were. I also, I would be amiss. I would totally be amiss not to mention the time when this album came out, which was the late '80s. And as I already said, I was living in Austria at the time. I did have a front row seat to what the Cold War looked like. Um, to the, you know, and the reason why I'm bringing up the Cold War is because Sting actually brings that up in the studio album and in the live album. So, and of course, they also feature the song "The Russians" in the movie while I believe his son is being born, and all of that. So, all of these elements contributed to this particular movie making, in my opinion, making such an impact, and influencing, definitely influencing me, and I can only imagine, many other people, many other musicians worldwide. Uh, and I believe I'm gonna leave it at that for this week. As I said, I apologize that I might be rambling a lot today, but I am exhausted. I hope to um, find some strength and focus over the next week, and for the next live video. I highly recommend checking out Bring On the Night. I have been, of course, in preparing this video. I've been listening to the album a lot. I've been listening to the other albums in the playlist a lot. I do want to also just my own analysis. Check out how Omar Hakim plays, and how simple he plays. I'm not a big fan of telling people not to overplay or anything like that. I think that these kind of thoughts are garbage. Nevertheless, um, I did notice that there's a simplicity in how he plays, and I'm not talking about the drum solo. The drum solo is just unbelievable, and that simplicity reminded me of another drummer who I love playing with, and who I admire greatly, and that is the great Buddy Williams. So I don't think that it's it's a far off connection to make, that Omar Hakim was influenced by Buddy Williams a great deal. Um, I think that there was a lot of influence going on there, and you hear it. In my opinion, you hear it in the playing. So, having said that, check out the album, check out this playlist. If you're so inclined, please contribute to the cause. You can find my PayPal and Venmo information in the description of the video. If you want to get in touch with me for lessons or recordings, please email me at george@georgefarmer.com. I hope that you guys are, and ladies, of course, are getting some information out of these videos. I'm trying to share my thoughts and my influences, my likes and dislikes. And as I said in the beginning, when somebody irks you with some racist bullshit, don't let them get away with it. It's not worth it. And now more than ever, we have to speak up, and we have to tell people that, listen, what you're saying is not okay. And I was so glad that, just coming back to the beginning, that on the post, on the original post, that I was not the only one who who commented on the violin player's ultra racist comments, and who I was not the only one who noticed that. I was that that kind of and that gives me hope. And perhaps the reason why I am vocal about these issues is because I am doing my best to give other people hope as well, that you're not alone in noticing these behaviors, and you're not alone in being offended. Um, and there's strength in numbers. We can certainly do something about this, and it starts with speaking up. So, just like I have been speaking up about this album now for the last hour, I highly recommend checking it out. There's so much to analyze. There's so much to enjoy when it comes to this album. Oh my God, Branford Marsalis has the best soprano sax tone that I sound. That I mean, you know, I this I was thinking about this when trying to gather my thoughts about this album. The sounds that people were getting out of their instruments were remarkable. I believe that in the movie you can see Kenny Kirkland play a Yamaha DX7, which was by today's standards, not the most sophisticated synthesizer. Um, but the the way he uses that, and perhaps pay attention to um, the way the synth sounds are being mixed in with the soprano sax and or tenor sax of Branford Marsalis. Um, that is inspiring to say the least. But all of the sounds that are being created, again, and people who have watched these videos know that I always shout out background singers. Janice Pendarvis and Dolette McDonald sound blend so well with what's going on. And let's not forget that they were not the only ones who were singing background. I believe that Omar Hakim was singing background as well. I believe that at some point, perhaps Branford Marsalis was singing background as well. There is the musical. I kind of found a way how to put that. Let me just look it up. Oh yeah, the mastery of musical styles is a good example of the mastery of the musical styles in this album is, in my opinion, the song One World. Check that out, because all of a sudden you have, and especially check out the bass part to that song. You have what can only be described as like very authentic sounding reggae, right? But then in the chorus, it's not reggae anymore. It definitely veers into a sort of South African township type music. There is a mastery in playing these styles in that kind of authentic in that kind of authentic way. Um, Check that out. It is really it's pretty incredible. Once you listen to it with these thoughts in mind. Um, Also, I did a video of a couple months ago of the opera bass in pop music. Check out Burn For You. Um, all of a sudden, you got this pop song that is really difficult to put into a genre. Is it a ballad? Is it a medium song? Is it does it make you dance? Does it make you think? Is it what's the word I'm looking for? Is it a play with words? Is it a word painting, so to speak? What is it actually? But there is no electric bass, at least from what I can hear. The song only has upright bass, right? Um, I will make a video of that for sure, because that for me was another example of, oh, wait a second, The upright bass actually has a voice in pop music, and it has been used many, many times over. So there's a lot there. There's a lot to check out, as I said in the description of the video. Um, Definitely listen to it, take it in, open yourselves up to this kind of music, and perhaps let's forget about the controversy of jazz musicians playing pop music. Oh my God, is the world coming to an end? Perhaps that was never that important. You know, perhaps that it was more and the wish to express and be authentic in your expression. And I think I'm gonna leave you guys with that thought. Try to be authentic in your expression, and don't let anyone get away with some racist bullshit. We cannot afford it. Go out and vote, resist, um, be cool, be kind, and remember that we only have each other. I'll see you all next week. Later.